Patrick McQueen. So good to see you again.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, well, there's some big news out there that I thought would be really important to bring to our community and talk about. And that is all about Phoenix approving backyard ADUs, i.e. casitas. Like, tell us what is going on and how that benefits homeowners that currently own homes, but future homeowners.
This has the potential to be pretty big. Big for real estate agents, big for homeowners, big for people who want to move to the city of Phoenix. So you're right. The city of Phoenix just approved a new zoning ordinance change that allows for what are called ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, basically guest houses or casitas. Now, the city of Phoenix was careful, I think, in not using the word guest house, because they don't want these to be used for short-term rentals. And they've even sort of put that into the zoning ordinance that they cannot be used for short-term rentals. But largely, they can be used for generational living. They can be used for regular rentals. They can be used for the homeowner to have more space, all of that good stuff. And so it has the potential to be really good for a lot of people in the city of Phoenix. Under the new law, homes within the city of Phoenix are automatically allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit, so long as you meet these certain measurement requirements. You know, it can't be more than 75% of the existing building size. It can't be 15 feet or taller, or it has to be 15 feet or under, depending on the existing building size. And there's a couple of other sort of standards that you're going to need to follow, but it's a win for people who want to have these in the city of Phoenix. And as I mentioned, the city of Phoenix did use the word ADU, and I think they were careful in doing that because they do not want these to be used as short-term rentals. Whether that inclusion or the way in which they've worded the short-term rental stuff in there is legal or not, you know, I have some differing opinions on whether they can regulate like that. But at moment, you know, we're not talking about short-term rentals. We're talking about accessory dwelling units to provide for more housing for people who need it in the city. So for those who need more housing, and it's a good thing.
Did they define short-term rental? Like, is it 30 days at minimum? Is that how they defined it?
Short-term rental, they basically said as defined by the statutes, the transient rental statutes. So it's anything less than 30 days.
Okay. And how does this work in relation to HOA regulations for a community? So does this trump an HOA saying maybe you can't, and now City of Phoenix says you can? Like, walk through that.
That's a really good question, and that's a question that we've had a lot of. I think that the City of Phoenix could have drafted this in a little bit of a different way, such that the City of Phoenix could have, the zoning laws could have somehow trumped HOA rules and CC&Rs, or covenants, conditions, and restrictions. But I think the way it's drafted, you actually still have an obligation to comply with your HOA documents. So I think based on some California case law, based on what some of the cities in California have done, I think that the City of Phoenix had two ways to draft this. They drafted it one way, and because they drafted it this one particular way, I think that HOAs are still going to have the final say if there is something in your CC&Rs that addresses accessory dwelling units, guest houses, casitas, those types of things. So I think that HOAs trump the City of Phoenix in this situation.
Okay, that's great insight. And how does this compare with maybe some of the surrounding cities of Phoenix? Or what is Glendale? What is Scottsdale, Mesa? Are they already there, or are they kind of haven't gotten there yet? And do you expect them to follow?
Yeah, you know, I'm not familiar with these in any other cities or towns around the Phoenix area, so I don't believe that they exist. In fact, I'm almost positive they don't exist based on some review that I've done. And so, you know, the biggest housing crunch seems to be within the biggest city in Arizona. And so that may be the catalyst for some of these outlying areas to do something very, very similar. Now they've got the framework now, they've got the sort of legal basis to have done this. And so I think it will act as a catalyst for other cities. Now you still have to, there's going to be additional taxes you have to pay. There's going to be stuff you have to do to make sure that you're in compliance, but there's no lengthy approval process anymore. It's much easier.
So prior to this change, what did it look like? I mean, was there something out there that said you couldn't have an ADU, or was it just a longer process or more hoops you had to jump through? And this is just kind of streamlining, saying, hey, we condone it, we allow it. If you're not in an HOA, go for it. And then here's the rules to it.
It's largely the latter, and so it's really streamlined things. It's almost an automatic right, as opposed to saying, well, does this meet the setbacks? Do we have enough of a building or a building envelope or a land envelope here to put this in? No, it's automatic now, so long as you construct within those parameters and you don't use it as a short-term rental. So it's to me, it's more of a streamlining than anything else to answer your question. But it is a wholesale zoning change. It is a grant of permission now. The interesting thing too, we've had a lot of questions on, in addition to the HOA question, we've had a lot of questions on historic homes. And so people are like, well, can I put one in where I have a historic home in Central Phoenix? There's a lot of those. And the answer is yes. You're going to have to comply with a couple of other regulations, but the answer is yes. And so this applies there as well.
That's fantastic. So early on, you said that there's a lot of benefit here, especially for real estate agents. Unpack that a little bit. So what do you think the benefit is to the real estate agent, and how can they help get the word out?
In terms of benefits, I think that it may make selling houses in Phoenix a little bit easier. I think that's the bigger benefit. I mean, there's probably a financial benefit too, because these homes are going to sell a little faster, perhaps. And ultimately, when a casita or a guest house is constructed, or an ADU, I'll use the correct term, then we got more square footage, and homes sell for more. And so it's a good thing for homeowners. It's a good thing for real estate agents too. Again, I think really selling in the city of Phoenix is going to be much easier now, because for people who, maybe they want to move in their parents, maybe they want to move in their kids, maybe they want their kids to be back there, it's just or maybe they want a little bit of rental income that they weren't ordinarily getting. I think it makes Phoenix a little bit more attractive. Again, though, got to be careful of the HOAs, because it's not an automatic right to trump the HOA requirements.
Well, there is no doubt we're seeing multi-generational living occur as people are alive longer, and certainly with affordability and cost of housing, etc. So I think that this is just an amazing option to give future buyers and existing homeowners of, maybe it's not selling the house to go buy a bigger house. Maybe it is just building that ADU onto your land if you can, and if it meets the requirements. So again, we want options in life, right? This is just a great option to have if you live or want to buy in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right. And like I said, the process is much easier. In some of these zoning cases, you have to go and ask all your neighbors if they're okay with certain things. You have to go through this lengthy process. Sometimes you're denied, sometimes you get stuck, and now it's going to be much easier. So I think a lot of people in the city are pretty happy about it.
Yeah, that's great. All right, what do we need to know that we haven't talked about already? Where's the red tape? Where's the, what's behind the curtain? What do you know? What really keeps you up at night when you think about this, Patrick?
The short-term rental tie-in, we kind of mentioned this, but as I said, the city of Phoenix was careful to not call these guest houses. But the city of Phoenix, under our existing statutes, under existing state statutes, has a very narrow alleyway of being able to regulate short-term rentals. They can do it for health and safety. They can do it for a couple of other things. They can require a couple things. They cannot require certain other things. But cities and towns are really limited by state statute in terms of what they can do when it comes to short-term rentals. So I see a challenge, not to the ADU allowance, not to the ability to do an ADU in the city of Phoenix, but a challenge by those who want to use their ADU for whatever they see fit, including short-term rentals. So I think that there's that potential But really, otherwise, there's no fine print, no terms and conditions, that sort of stuff.
All right. Well, stay tuned because we are going to do a separate interview on short-term rentals. So be sure to check that out. But for today, Patrick, thank you as always for sharing your insights and your knowledge with us.
Oh, happy to do it. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.